Welcome to the show. Tonight we're talking about whether God should be referred to as a he or a she. I believe that for both moral and psychological reasons, the Bible was very right in portraying God as a father and not as a mother. Joining me are a minister and a feminist theologian, both of whom strongly disagree with me. They would like, for example, the Lord's Prayer to read, "Our Mother, who art in heaven." Please welcome Jeffrey Siker and Ann Eggebroten. Let me add, by the way, that Jeffrey is a professor of New Testament studies at Loyola Marymount University, and Ann is at Mount St. Mary's College in Los Angeles as well. Thank you both. Let me ask you, would you really like to portray God as a mother? What benefits could there possibly accrue from that?
Well, Dennis, it's just more accurate to use balance in our language about God. We've been out of balance for a couple of thousand years, calling God Father exclusively, although in the Bible there are references to God as Mother, imagery, and specific sentences. So we just need to get at the truth of who God is, and that's one benefit.
Well, so you would like to change it to "Our Mother who art in heaven"?
Sometimes, not exclusively, although there is a wing of the movement that would say, yeah, we need to take a couple centuries in that direction to counterbalance where we are now.
Well, let me ask you, let me pursue that first question for either of you, okay? I am wary about tampering with some of the keystone, the cornerstone elements of Western civilization. God as Father is one of those. And one reason that I know you know from my article is, God is a lawgiver. Thou shalt not murder. If it said, Mom said, don't steal, it doesn't have 1/10 the effect as Dad said, don't steal. And since God in the Bible is the lawgiver, the moral authority, I think it's critical to keep God as Father.
Yeah, but see, one of the problems is that if you view the Bible as merely a rule book, and God is merely a rule giver, then I think you're missing something rather crucial. I mean, God, the God of the Bible, of the Hebrew Bible, of the New Testament, is a God who enters into relationships with people. And so there's this emphasis upon transformation of people, and not on mere rules. It's on being transformed from within. So it's not just God the rule giver, not the Bible the rule book.
It certainly isn't just, I agree. But
not even primarily.
Not even primarily. All right, well, that makes sense then. If you would want to see God more feminine, then you clearly would want to move away from rules. Male is more rule-oriented. I acknowledge that. But if there's anything we need in America today, it would strike me is a generation raised more with rules. It does not seem to be what is missing in a world that filled with crime, for example.
See, the problem is, if all you need is God to be a rule giver, a father figure, a heavenly father figure, because there aren't enough earthly father figures, then one of the problems I have is that God becomes merely a functional God. Namely, if you have an effective earthly father, then who needs God the Father in heaven, or who needs God the Mother in heaven? Who needs God, period? So, is God merely something that fills in for, what we can't quite take care of ourselves? Is that?
Can I jump in there, Dennis?
Please, yeah.
Because you're saying that we need to keep God as male and as an authority figure to control violence, and the violence is growing in our society.
That's right, exactly.
But it's not working right now. We have a male God. We've had a male God for a couple thousand years, and that's not.
It is working. I am willing to stake everything I stand for. I will take a year off from media work. If you went to the prisons of America and you did the following poll among violent criminals, how many of you were active in a church or synagogue while you were committing your violent crimes? And if you find that the proportion of violent criminals who were active in Christianity or Judaism equals the proportion outside the prison, I resign. I acknowledge you're right. We're going to come back because with the shortage of male role models in our society, I don't understand why we would want to risk losing our most important male mentor of all, God. Stay with us, okay? That's my question. The prison question. We'll come back to that.
Critical female need is self-esteem, and that comes from knowing that we are made in God's image.
Just a heat rash or a heat type itch Michael Cook of Grand Prairie, Texas, is telling us about Triple Action Gold Bond Medicated Powder.
Gold Bond medicated powder has solved my problem, made my life more comfortable, and it feels really good.
Gold Bond's Triple Action is the absorbing action of powder, the medicating action of a proven itch fighter, and the drying action of zinc oxide.
Gold Bond medicated powder has worked for me, and I'm sure it'll work for others.
Try Triple Action Gold Bond Medicated Powder.
Since we began the Hooked on Phonics program, every one of my students now can read sentences. The Hooked on Phonics program has had an enormous effect, even more so than, in fact, much more so than other reading programs. From my experience, Hooked on Phonics is the most effective tool for teaching kids the nuts and bolts of reading.
Hooked on Phonics works for me!
Call 1-800-ABCDEFG.
This is where I used to work. I shuffled papers. I never saw the outdoors. And I had a boss who yelled. Today, this is where I work. This is what I see outside my window. And I'm my own boss. Plus, I've got job security, medical coverage, and a paid vacation. How did I get this? I got this in just 3 weeks at MTA schools. MTA trained me for my CDL. And even before I graduated, I had a great job offer.
Just like we taught this dude, we'll teach you. We'll help you get a commercial driver's license in just 3 to 4 weeks. And we work very closely with hundreds of leading trucking companies. Every week, representatives from these companies come to town to run seminars on everything you want to know about a career in trucking. And while they're here, they're looking to hire drivers, and they hire our graduates. So a lot of our graduates have job offers before they finish our training.
I tested for my CDL and went right to work in a great job.
To get started toward your commercial driver's license, call. Call now.
You know, I've been doing survival insurance commercials for 10 years now, and there's something I really want to tell you. Other insurance brokerages will promise you the lowest rate, but only Survival guarantees it in writing, and if you find a better quote within 5 days, they'll refund you the difference. Call Survival now for the lowest rate and the best service guaranteed.
Call Survival. Any car, any driver. Survival offers the lowest rates guaranteed. Call Survival now.
Welcome back. This to me is a really, really important discussion, because I think that under assault is one of the most important elements of keeping society from becoming Rwanda. All right, that's my bottom line. I think Rwanda is natural, and I think America is unnatural. So many people, so different, living largely at peace with each other. I like what Judeo-Christian civilization has produced. So I'm wary about tampering with it. You asked the question, Jeffrey, earlier, and with two in case you're just joining us, two professors of theology of Bible.
English here.
I actually teach writing.
And teach writing
and
as well,
studies.
and women's studies, everything, you name it, except botany. They do not teach botany. At any rate, you had said, what's so good about what has already been done? And I said, I like what has been done. If you went to the prison, you would find that the vast majority of violent criminals were not active in Judaism or Christianity. That was my challenge to you when we left.
Yes, but if you went to the women's shelter and asked, why have you been abused, it would be because this man thinks that he is superior to this woman, that the woman is inferior, and in part it's because you have this male God. And if you have this male battering God, you're going to have, you know...
You really believe that?
Absolutely.
You mean, so wife beating that has been virtually universal in history, including when you had goddess worship, you really believe is directly related to whether you see God as male?
At least indirectly.
Okay, well, it's so indirect as to me, yes, please.
Here, let me just say that believing in a male God supports the entire structure of a male patriarchal society. So if you have a male God, then it's right to have male presidents, male Congress, male priesthood, male pope, males dominant in every other field, even in the home. It supports a whole patriarchal system. And when we start saying, wait a minute, we forgot God isn't really male, it's just a way of talking about God. God, as Julian of Norwich said 600 years ago, God is as truly our mother as our father. These are just metaphors.
Yes, they are metaphors, but metaphors are important. I'm worried about boys. You know from my article, yeah. I am worried. I care most, you may not, you may care most about relationships with God. I care about that. I care most, this religious person most cares that men not rape men not murder, men not mug. I am convinced that a God-based 10 Commandments is infinitely more successful than a mother-based 10 Commandments.
Why does,
That's
it have
my
to be
challenge.
why does it have to be an either-or?
Because what's your choice? It?
No, your choice is using language in different ways, using God as mother, God as father, to reinforce the notion that God is not male. As you yourself have said in a recent show, I believe, language has power, rhetoric has power. If you start calling police pigs, you'll start treating them that way. If you start calling God father all the time, you will start thinking that God is male, and God is not male.
My response to that is if you start calling God father, then maybe men who believe in God will start acting like God, will start being compassionate to the poor, will start clothing the naked.
Why should they start now when we've been calling God Father for umpteen thousand years?
They have started. Men by and large who have been quote-unquote God-fearing in our society have largely been decent. That's exactly my point. That's why I'm afraid to tamper with it.
Okay, Dennis, you're saying that because we have this problem of male violence, we have to keep a male God, even though we're abandoning actually the truth about God's nature, even though we're abandoning the needs of women, we have to continue the sexism in our society.
No, that's a very fair question, and when we come back, that's the first thing I want to deal with. What needs of women are truly be abandoned? I would argue that women first need decent men. Before they need anything theological, they need something decent called good men. We'll be back in a moment. That's what I want to talk about. Okay? That's, what are women most need? That would be my argument.
You know me? You may not recognize me without my hair. I'm Cy Sperling, Hair Club's first client. And since 1968, I've helped thousands of men with thinning hair. If you have thinning hair, this booklet is something you should have. It covers transplants, weaving, fusion, minoxidil, and proper hair care. So call our toll-free number now to get your free booklet. You saw the difference it made for me, and look what it did for our clients. So call our toll-free number now to get your free booklet.
When there's flames flying, grilling, sautéing, hot, very hot.
We asked some of the hottest chefs in town to switch from their antiperspirant to Degree.
Body heat activated. Can I try it?
As your body heat rises, Degree releases extra protection when you need it most.
It was great. It just worked all night. It kicked in and worked really well. Definitely works.
Switch to the antiperspirant that's body heat activated.
I'm still dry. Leaves me feeling confident and I can walk out and greet customers. Degree is there for me.
Degree antiperspirant for an extra degree of protection.
Meet the coolest cops since Miami Vice.
You under arrest, stupid.
Thursday, they hunt down a killer.
9mm, yo. There it is.
Who may be one of their own.
This wasn't a shootout, it was an execution. You're not saying I killed him.
An all-new New York Undercover, Thursday at 9 on Fox 11.
Something's turning ordinary people into killers.
This area is being subjected to a controlled experiment.
By the government?
An all-new X-Files, Friday at 9 on Fox 11.
Captain Jorge and my friend Ron reporting to you from our jet copter. Traffic's pretty heavy today. Wow, that truck just got hit pretty hard. You better stay away from the second lane.
He needs to call 1-800-THE-LAW-2 right away. The attorney could get his truck towed to a repair shop and get him a rental car so he and his passenger can receive the medical attention they'll need. They could even get monetary compensation for the pain and suffering caused by this accident.
After an accident, just take 5 minutes and call 1-800-THE-LAW-2.
That's right. Car accidents plus 1-800-THE-LAW-2 equals results.
Over 10 million people need respiratory care every year. Over 370,000 of them are infants. There is a critical need for respiratory therapy technicians. You can join this exciting, growing profession by taking an accelerated program in the field of respiratory therapy. In less than a year, you could be a respected member of the medical team earning an excellent salary.
For information on a career in respiratory therapy, call 1-800-646-0055. That's 1-800-646-0055. Call now.
Welcome back. I'm talking to Dr. Ann Eggebroten and Minister Jeffrey Siker. Both of them are professors, and you raised one question before we go to the audience, most of whom have questions, apparently. You raised a tough one, and I struggled with that issue. What about women's needs? And I answered you that before a woman needs anything theologically, the thing that women most need is for men to conquer their violence, their aggressive nature. And I think that a male God who teaches compassion and love and decency and rule-giving is the best chance to produce the male that the female most needs. So that's the way I would answer, what do you feel is the critical female need in a female God?
The critical female need is self-esteem, and that comes from knowing that that we are made in God's image just as much as you are. Because if we live in a society where we have an idol worship of God as male, that's false, that's idolatry, and that does incredible damage to women's self-esteem.
Yeah.
I have 3 little daughters, and I'm watching them grow up with this kind of culture, and I'm doing everything I can to help them.
And you really feel it affects their self-esteem?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And you do have there's this business, when God is male, the male becomes God, is basically what happens.
Yeah, well, I don't buy that, but
I know you
okay,
don't,
all right.
no,
I appreciate that. Okay, no, it was fair that you threw it in, but I just had a dissent. Yes, please.
It just occurred to me in listening to the panel that a lot of communities like South Central that are matriarchal in there's not a lot of fathers at home, that these are some of the most violent places in America, and I would just like your comments on that.
But does that have to do with the fact that there's not a father at home, or does that have to do with some of the racial inequities in society?
Oh, not a father at home. I am with him. I am totally with him. That's right.
And then you have to ask, why is there not a father at home?
Okay, that is a fair question, but since the one common element of violent criminals, the most common characteristic is not being raised by a father, I think that removing the heavenly father in addition to an earthly father is a catastrophe. That's why I appreciated that particular question. Yes?
Hi, Dennis, I agree with what I recently heard you say on your radio show in regards to feminism. Instead of offering what women can do or what they are all about, instead, looking at the masculine role, saying this is what we can do in that regard, instead of offering what they can offer. And here in God, instead of showcasing what the women aspect could be out of God, where are we going to get what a women's, where's that going to come from? Where's the attention and the validity going to come from women, if not from either of these two sources?
Well, to the extent that I got you, I am very much for stressing, and that was a toughie. I acknowledge that. That was a tough one. I would argue that we want to accentuate both elements, just as you folks do. I am not against accentuating feminine aspects of God. Not at all.
So then you're in favor of using feminine language to talk about God?
A balance.
No, I'm not for 50-50 because God is not androgynous. God is not both sexes. God is neither sex. Let's begin with that, obviously. That, yes. Okay, but we can't, but since we can't relate to an it or a hermaphrodite, we need to have some imagery, and I prefer father for the reasons that I accentuated. But
Even given the implications that go with it.
Even given the implications. Okay. Yes, please.
I have 2 things. First of all, I come from a battered relationship in my past. The man was not religious. I don't think he'd ever seen a Bible, and he didn't even know who God was. So I think that kind of blows that argument about the male being superior because God is seen as a father. The other thing is that if you read your Bible, the very last verse in the book of Revelation tells us not to change it one jot or one tittle.
Yes, well, let's not change one jot or one tittle. Let's use Deuteronomy that talks about God who gave birth. Let's use, if you're a Christian, the New Testament talks about God as a mother hen. Let's use all of the feminine images of God that are in the Bible. There are not just masculine images of God in the Bible. There are feminine images of God as well, and this in a context of a patriarchal culture, which is all the more stunning. So, fine, let's use them all.
Okay, but you still want it to be our mother who art in heaven.
Occasionally, yeah.
Well, like how much, 20% of the time?
Half the time.
Oh, well, that's not occasionally. With all respect, that's half the time,
Fine, half the time.
Okay, yes.
Yes, Dennis, in relation to your last comment, because of the patriarchal society, we've been exposed to male gods, but we also talk of Mother Earth and Mother Nature. Why can we consider God as a neutral energy of creation?
Well, because speaking about what Jeffrey did, okay, no, I appreciate that a lot of people feel as you do, and I'll tell you very briefly why. I can't love a neutral energy source. I can love God, God the Father, or theoretically God the Mother. I cannot fall in love and have a lifetime of relationship with an energy source. That's my most honest answer. I think you would probably agree on that.
That's the problem, when you have to use personal language.
That's right. Well, that is the key problem here.
Especially in English.
But Dennis, when you say, I know God is neither male nor female, but I want to keep referring to God as Father, you are refusing to grow and to learn, and you're trying to keep God in a box of God is male. And It's not God who's in that box. It's you who are inside of a box,
No,
and God is calling you out to a larger, infinite view of who God is.
And namely, and what is that view? Energy source?
God is creator, ruler, shepherd, potter, mother and father, all kinds of language that's right there in the Bible to use for God. And we need to move beyond getting stuck on this idea of God
right.
is Father.
Okay, the question is really, I don't think we need to move beyond. I like where we have moved to. That's what I began my opening comments. I'm not willing to tamper with cornerstones of Judeo-Christian theology quite as readily as you folks are. Okay, yes, please.
Metaphor. If you've got a crumbling house, why on earth would you take away the foundation?
What's the foundation?
God, the Father.
Why is God is the
Jesus
foundation,
Christ.
not that God is Father, not
Things
that God
are
is
bound
male.
to get worse before they get better, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. God is male is not the foundation. God as our creator and the one who holds us and cares about us is the foundation.
Absolutely.
Okay, look, you know, I have one more thought to share with you in the brief time remaining, and it's again, I just regret we don't have a whole hour to do this, because I'm deeply grateful to both of you for coming. I emphasize the rule part. I think that you emphasize the relationship part, and I understand that. And really, that's the $64,000 question: which will produce a kinder society? Which emphasis? And that may be, for all I know, just a theological difference coming from my Jewish background and your Christian background. Because the Hebrew Bible is very rule-oriented, also relationship, but the New Testament is very relationship-oriented, though also rule-oriented. But it depends where you put the emphasis. All I know is when I look at America today, I'm dying for more rules. What can I tell you? Anyway, I will be right back. Thank you both so much. I have my own thoughts to share with you in a moment. If you plan on being in the Los Angeles area, we would love